Hello YouTube! Haven't done a video in a while, so decided to just go ahead and pop on this camera with my brand new backdrop and setting to just go ahead and shoot a video for you guys. So there's some really exciting things happening in this upcoming month of June that I wanted to share with each and every one of you. So I started this new series on TikTok and Instagram known as Astronomy History or Space History, and then also must-see celestial events. So I've been using this interactive sky chart on Sky and Telescope to essentially look at all these different really cool alignments that you guys will definitely want to catch, including when the moon is passing through constellations that's also aligned with, say, certain planets like Mars and Jupiter. And I wanted to share that with you guys today. So I've already compiled a bunch of events for June. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that up to share with each and every one of you guys. But just a little heads up, I just launched a new collection known as the Love Collection, and here's actually a little sample of what it looks like. So I have each of the planets in the letter O for love, and I originally did this because I had launched my Love Your Martian collection not too long ago, and I got quite a few requests for not only more colors, but also for putting in other planets in the O. And so that's what launched the Love Collection. I also launched the In Space We Trust, which is kind of this like small logo that reminded me a bit of like a badge that you would get on a uniform. And in my eyes, it was kind of the unification of all of humankind when exploring the cosmos. And so I kind of felt like it was like this badge of community that we would sort of put on our wardrobe. And I also was just kind of having fun on Canva with like the different like graphics and everything. And one final thing is I also launched these two sweatpants. I only launched it for a few of the planets. This one is Love Earth and Love Saturn. And yeah, I only did a couple of colors as well for now, but that was a new exciting thing as well because I just added a new clothing item to the collection. So let's now go ahead and jump in with our events that are happening for June. Now, if you guys are already an email subscriber, I highly recommend going and subscribing on astroathens.com for the weekly transmission. I send them out every week, every Saturday morning, for the upcoming week of celestial events, as well as space history. Now, I'm going to be adding two new features to the email known as deep sky objects, so specifically looking at, say, like Messier catalog objects, as well as astro terms. So terminology that'll be really useful for when you're doing stargazing or you're meeting with astronomy clubs. Hopefully that will start to happen again in the coming year, that you'll actually be quite well versed in a lot of these astronomy terms. Something else I include in there as well is also the moon phases, so you'll definitely want to catch that. So now looking at week 1, which is going to be for June 1st to the 6th. Now for the entire month, facing west, Mars is just barely going to be touching the hand of Gemini under Pollux, which is that star on the left side of the Gemini constellation. And this is going to be a really beautiful alignment until about June 12th, so the very beginning of June, you'll be able to see Mars. And now just after sunset, both Venus and Mercury are going to be visible just along the coasting along the northwest horizon. So not too far north of the horizon. If you want to see this, you're probably going to need to get high up on a hill or be somewhere along a coast. So definitely catch that just after sunset. And now for my early morning risers. Up until about June 16th in the early morning, just before sunrise, Mercury is going to be visible. Now you're going to want to face east to northeast to be able to try and see Mercury, and it's going to be visible just until, of course, about sunrise. And then you also have Jupiter and Saturn. Now, if you're up on your hill, turn around and face the southwest region. Again, in the early morning sky, which is going to be visible almost all all month, just before sunrise. And now week 2, June 10th is the solar eclipse. Now I'm gonna add a little bit more events for week 2 and week 1, so definitely check out for that weekly transmission to find the details for those 2 weeks as far as must-see celestial events. But now moving into week 3, so I think it's kind of exciting. Any Big Bang lovers out there, and I mean Big Bang Theory, the show, June 14th is Flag Day. So cue Fun with Flags with Sheldon. I think that that's just such a fun episode. And June 16th, the half moon passes through the constellation Virgo. Now this is gonna be really pretty because of the bright star Spica. Now, for those of you guys who know about Spica, you know that Spica is not only a blue giant variable star, but it's also part of a binary system. And so it is also orbiting with another star in space together. And so they themselves make a binary star system together. But what we're able to see from here is kind of just that bright illumination of those 2 stars, which orbit pretty close to each other, at least from our perspective. Now moving into week 4, you got June 21st, which is the summer solstice. Moving into space history. This has actually been really fun for me to put together, especially when I was shooting some TikToks, because it allows me to kind of jump into certain characters of the people that are in space history, such as Charles Messier, who discovered quite a lot of, well, the Messier objects, Messier catalog. And fun fact, I've mentioned this quite a few times, maybe you guys haven't caught it here on YouTube yet, or maybe I have some new subscribers here. Charles Messier was a French astronomer who was originally a comet hunter. So he actually was always trying to track and find comets. And a big thing that was like really funny about how Messier catalog started was he found all these weird fuzzy objects and called them objects to avoid. And later it was known that these objects were things like nebulae and star clusters and galaxies and globular clusters, which is like super duper cool. So starting with week 1 in space history, June 1st, 2011, Space Shuttle Endeavour landed after its final mission. June 2nd, 1966 was the Surveyor 1 mission, which became the first spacecraft to soft land on the moon. Now, the Surveyor 1 mission was extremely important for the Apollo missions because not only did it actually collect a lot of information about the moon, but it was the first spacecraft to actually soft land on the moon. And so not only was that a huge success for the US to actually have a spacecraft land on the moon, but then to be able to prepare where the landing site was going to be for Apollo. Now, June 3rd, 1965 was when Gemini 4 launched. And this is actually where Edward White made his first US spacewalk. So this was the first United States spacewalk of any US astronauts. And this was by Edward White. And lastly, for week 1 in space history was June 6, 1971. And this was when Soyuz 11 carried Soviet cosmonauts, and they docked the first crewed orbital station, which was known as the Salyut 1. And now continuing into week 2 of June, this brings us back to 1975. On June 8th, 1975 was the launch of Venera 9, which is by the USSR, and it later sent back the first images ever taken of the surface of Venus. And only 10 years later, June 11th, 1985, the USSR became the first country to place an observational balloon into Venus's orbit. June 13th, 1983, Pioneer 10 became the first spacecraft to exit the heliosphere. To June 13th, 2015, the Philae lander. It woke up after spending 6 months on a comet and began sending data back to Earth. Now moving into week 3, on June 14th, 1967 was the launch of Mariner 5. And then June 16th, 1963, Valentina Tereshkova, a Soviet cosmonaut, became the first woman in space. Lastly, for week 3 was June 18th, 1983. Sally Ride became the first American woman to travel to space. And for your final week in June, starting on June 21st, which is typically the summer solstice, but in 2004 was the launch of Spaceship One. And Spaceship One, it was the first private crewed mission. Now going way back to 1894, June 25th specifically, was the birthday of the German rocket pioneer Hermann Julius Oberth. Moving into nearly 100 years later, June 27th, 1982, the Space Shuttle Columbia carried the first military payload into space. June 29th, 1961, the US Navy's Transit 4A became the first satellite to be sent to space carrying a nuclear power source. And finally, June 30th, 2015 was the first International Asteroid Day, which is following the Tunguska event, which happened in Siberia in 1908, which was a massive asteroid impact. Actually, Asteroid Day is always quite fun to kind of get involved in the different activities that are tied together with like the Planetary Society and other space organizations to learn a bit about, well, planetary protection from asteroid impacts, what the different plans are for redirect emission of asteroids, and other things like that. So that's about it for this video of things happening in June. Stay tuned for the following one, and also check out again for astroathens.com, the weekly transmission, to get more information on your space events every single week. And also stay tuned, I'm going to be sharing an astro terms video very soon to learn a bit about the terminology that astronomers use. Until next time, bye everyone, at Astra, and be sure to hit the subscribe if you like this video. Bye!